Welcome to Lawyers Without Filters. This is our first episode in the series. We're going to be talking about image today, and we're going to give people a few minutes to join us. And while we do that, we'll start to introduce ourselves, and then we'll explain what this is all about. I'm looking at, I see 0 viewers, so maybe we should wait a few more minutes for intros, but welcome, first and foremost. And now for some introduction. My name is Amanda Schaefer. I'm an attorney at the Shapiro Law Firm. We are based in New York City, practice immigration, family, criminal defense. And I had a beauty quote. We all did beauty quotes for this. My beauty quote was, I should have looked at that before. Through simplicity comes great beauty. And that was said by Anonymous. I love that quote because I truly believe that you find beauty in the most, in nature, in the most natural ways, and that simplicity does equal beauty. That is why I chose that quote. So I'm going to pass it off next to Attorney Richards to introduce herself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Hashi Richards. I'm an attorney based here in Orlando, Florida, and I practice immigration and estate planning. And my quote is, character, intelligence, strength, style, that makes beauty. And the author is unknown. I feel like that quote embodies the beauty of a person, both the inner and the outer beauty. And so it really is representative of what I feel beauty is, both inner and outer. So thank you.
Attorney Clark.
Hi, I am attorney Linnette Clark. I am an immigration attorney and I have my own practice in Burbank, California, which is near Los Angeles. I've been in practice for over 20 years. And my quote is, beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself. And it's Coco Chanel. And I think that's important because the minute you accept yourself is the minute that you start to be beautiful, because you act the way you were meant to act. And it doesn't matter how anybody else sees you, it's how you accept yourself, and you're beautiful inside and out.
Thank you. Attorney Murrar. I said that right.
Hi, yes, I'm Elizabeth Murrar, and I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I do immigration law here. And I chose for my quote, we need to reshape our own perception of how we view ourselves. We have to step up as women and take the lead. And that's a quote by Beyonce. And the reason I chose that quote was because I think that as women, we're often afraid of taking leadership roles because the way that society treats us, or if not afraid, then we're sort of marginalized from taking those roles. And so we need to step up and step into those roles and follow the great examples of the other women that have done that, and Beyonce is one of them.
Queen B, Attorney Yao.
Hi, everybody. My name is Electra Yao. We have offices in New York City. We're right across the street from Macy's, and offices in New Jersey. But we work with clients all across the United States. I practice immigration law with a focus on working with creatives and professionals and investors, and trademark and entertainment law. So the quote that I chose today is actually a quote that I've heard throughout my whole life. And the author of this quote is my mother, Lucia Gallo. She herself is an immigrant. She told me when I was a little girl, beauty is what beauty feels. And she always told me to feel beautiful, because once I started to feel beautiful about myself and be confident about every single detail about myself, that beauty would shine out and my confidence would shine out, and I would start to dictate what other people think are beautiful. And I follow that advice my whole life, and it has served me well. And I hope that that quote, beauty is what beauty feels, will accompany you in your beauty journey.
Sounds like a smart lady. And I'm going to mess the last two up. Attorney QAZI.
Yep.
Sorry.
So I am Farah QAZI. I have an immigration and estate planning practice here in Chicago, and I, like the rest of these immigration attorneys, have clients all over the country. I believe very strongly in this topic because it's a topic that I think that as a mother, I have to continuously impart to my children, both to my boys and to my daughter. So I picked a quote that is from F. Scott Fitzgerald, one of my favorite writers, and it says, "No, she wasn't beautiful for something else, something as temporary as her looks. She was beautiful deep down to her soul. She is beautiful." And I picked that one because I felt like it takes the lessons that I try to impart to, like I said, to my kids, and then how I like to live my own life, which is to live it in a very soulful and rich way so that we can help others and be excellent members of a community, as well as imparting, whatever wisdom we might have learned along the way.
Well, we lost someone. Here we go. Okay, we're back. And finally, our special guest for today, Clémentine. She is our social media and image expert. Please introduce yourself and what you're all about.
Hi guys, my name is Clémentine Desseaux. I am based in Miami Beach, Florida. I'm a model and the founder of the All Women Project, which is an organization that's geared towards empowerment. We provide resources, safe spaces, and content and inspiration online and offline for girls and women. I've been doing that about 5 years now, and it's been the greatest mission ever. Just meeting so many amazing girls and women and making sure they grow up feeling empowered and strong about who they want to be and what they look like. And I didn't know about that beauty quote, but I think they're all amazing. It was really cool. My friend and body activist Bailey Riddle always says your body, your business. And I just see like myself using that phrase like every other day. So it really sticks with me and I really like it.
Someone has a little feedback going on. I'm not sure who. But thank you. Well, Clémentine, thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you here and have a perspective from someone who really does more than has been on social media and advertising, marketing, putting out an image on social media for a very long time, very successful at it. And we're here to talk about those issues today. So what to expect? The first and most important thing I want to say is that the purpose of this discussion is to have a discussion, is to have a conversation. It is not to point fingers or assign blame or exclude anyone. If you're a male watching this, we're welcome. We're glad you're here. We want you to hear what we have to say, because until we start talking about these issues in a public forum, there's never going to be any type of change. So we're not trying to offend anybody, hurt anyone's feelings. Please do not take it that way. We have very strong opinions. We're all from very diverse backgrounds, and that's what's going to make this great, because you're going to see that when we're going to talk about these hard issues, there's so many ways to look at it, and no one's necessarily right or wrong. Our goal is not to have a winner. Our goal is to just talk about it. On that note, I want to just quickly explain, well, where did this come from? Why did we decide to do this? And this will segue into our first main topic here. So I think it was Electra who started the legal marketing group.
Yes.
Okay. So Electra, during COVID, it was like March or April. We were all home trying to figure out where our lives are going and what we're going to do to bring in business. And Electra thought of the brilliant idea on Facebook to start a marketing group with a bunch of immigration attorneys who are small solo practices to share ideas on what to do, because can't do anything in person anymore, have to turn to online. So we ended up kind of breaking off to a smaller WhatsApp group and started talking a lot. And we ended up becoming friends. Like, we're not just talking about marketing and social media, but like everything. Like, I know a lot about these ladies now. And one day we were talking about, we'll call her TikTok Lawyer. This is how this conversation started. So TikTok Lawyer had like graphics of like from neck up, images, photos, videos, whatever it was on TikTok, and had like no followers. And then apparently she did a full body shot and then like jumped to like 2,000 followers or something, like ridiculous. She was fully clothed. I mean, she was wearing, a tight fitting, but, perfectly like conservative dress, pretty girl. But the conversation started as, should we do a full body shot if that's going to get us followers? And then some of us were like, am I comfortable doing a full body shot? Like, should I have to just to get followers, or should I ignore it? So it kind of snowballed from there. And as we were talking, I said, ladies, this is great. This is a great conversation. I'm really enjoying it. One of my majors in college, Go Blue, was sociology. So for me, this is all I ever want to talk about. I was like, but it's equally important that we have this conversation in the public as well, because we need participation from all segments of society, because some of the issues we talk about today about equality with men and women and whatnot, none of that will change if we're only talking about it behind closed doors. So we hope that this becomes a series that you will return to if you're watching to and enjoy it and find it to be an intellectual and stimulating conversation. Attorney Richards keeps disappearing on us. So with that in mind, is there anything anyone wants to add about the origin of our series here? All right, I guess I did a good job. Okay.
I just want to say that at the cornerstone of everything that we've been doing in our group has been curiosity, experimentation, and the willingness to learn. And you were absolutely right when you said in the beginning, Amanda, that this is not about judgment. This is about, professional women who are experimenting and trying to figure out what are the best and most effective ways to grow their business in a way that makes sense to them.
And on that note, Alexa, being on social media and marketing your firm is really marketing yourself. And what your image is, and your firm is your image, especially for us, where we all are by ourselves or with one or two other attorneys. So it's incredibly important to really understand, like, the lines are drawn differently with social media. I mean, think about 20 years ago, if you wanted to advertise, it would be what, on TV, like a billboard in the newspaper. We didn't have this access that we have today. So our first topic today, how society views you starts with how you view yourself. I brought up TikTok, the TikTok girl. Let's start with that. How do you guys, whoever wants to jump in, talk about, about doing the full body shot and, should we wear the tight fitting clothing if that is going to get us more followers? Clem, you can jump in if more followers is going to does much for us who are looking for people to pick up the phone and call us to be their attorney. Somebody take it from here.
I mean, I thought it was really interesting that you even brought up this subject as a group of highly educated women in the professional space, because a lot of people and a lot of women especially think that social media is only for young girls or people that have an image-based business. But the fact that it is a worry and like a question that all of you ask themselves, I think that's really interesting, and it shows how deep social media has changed our society and how we view ourselves and how we do business. So that was really interesting to hear from you, especially coming from a totally different type of work.
And how our profession is evolving, because I think a lot of the times people think of lawyers as people who maybe don't look like us. And I'm very active here at the City Bar in New York City. And when I told them that I did Facebook Lives and I, communicated on different platforms with potential clients, I mean, they looked at me like I had two heads. So I think that this is the evolution. This is a demonstration of the evolution of our profession, how we're becoming as a profession more technologically aware and how to utilize those tools to further connect with clients and increase our reach and our business and ultimately serve more people. So yes, it's not only young people who are interested in social media, but all the different professions are starting to utilize these different tools. I mean, if you go on TikTok, you'll see plastic surgeons who are, undergoing surgery on TikTok. They are showing their patients and their clients, and that again is just a different way to communicate with potential clients or people who want to know more about plastic surgery. So I think that the fact that we're utilizing social media to also give information to people on these different platforms that make sense to them is, again, speaks to the evolution of our profession. We're no longer those stuffy old lawyers, old white guys like hanging out in an office. Like when I went to law school, lawyers, or being a lawyer, was still called the old white boys club. And we're revolutionizing that. It's no longer that.
Definitely.
And I have a unique perspective because since I've been in practice for so long, I began my solo practice in 2001. And back then, the means of advertising was not Facebook, Twitter, etc. It was radio and newspaper. And I did have a radio show. And as women, I don't know about men, but your voice, and people get attracted to your voice. And when they come in and see you, then they'll make remarks on your voice and, oh, you look like your voice or you don't look like your voice. But I've always been in the media, in the sense of my advertising started in radio, and I had a radio show when I first began, and now it's switched over to Facebook and Instagram, and it is a different animal because now they're seeing you and you're putting your face out there, not so much as just your voice. So I have seen it evolve.
Yeah, and you know what we're all saying here is we're on a new frontier, and
Yes.
we are in the position to draw the lines in a sense. I don't think there's going to be only specific lines drawn here on what's acceptable and what's not. I think a lot of it comes down to what are you comfortable with. Like, no one should do anything they're not. At the same time, you have to adapt to the new technology. So what we're doing, hopefully with this series, and hopefully in general moving forward, is saying we're, female attorneys or female professionals, this is what is acceptable. We should set the standards, because remember, women are still new to the workforce in relatively speaking over all of time. So although for us, this is all we know, it still is a newer thing. And a lot of the reason that we feel the way we do about image and what is professional and what is not stems from that.
I just want to say that I love that we're having this conversation. My partner is a man, and it's funny because sometimes I will bring these conversations to him and he's mystified. And I give him all the credit. He is incredibly progressive and a wonderful, wonderful man. But, he's sometimes surprised that these are the conversations or the thoughts that women are dealing with in being professionals. And so I think it's a great conversation to have publicly. So I'm really pleased about that.
Attorney Richards, can try speaking. She's having some issues with the mic, I think. No, we don't hear you. Keep trying. Try signing back in. So one question I have for whoever is, we look like we lost Clem for a second. Whoever wants to jump in here, like what do you guys do differently than when you started like a few months ago doing this, like with your and why?
Well, for most of us, I think most of us started video around the same time with COVID. And I think that in itself was just a jump to begin with. So the fact that I'll speak for myself, I think some of us are on the same journey, but the fact that I even began to put my face in front of a camera and start doing videos specifically to kind of educate the public and get the word out and also tell people about my practice, that was all so foreign to me and something that I hadn't really considered doing before. I know that video has been around for quite a while and people have really used it in other forms of business, but like Electra said, we have always been taught a much more traditional model of practicing law. And so it just never even occurred to me that we would be able to, that this is something that we as lawyers could also utilize and be able to use. And I'm going to let everyone else talk, but I just wanted to say there's a couple of comments here, especially from Ria, that I think are kind of interesting to see what they have to say. So maybe afterwards we can have a chance to kind of get their feedback as well.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone watching, if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. So I can put that up.
Not that one.
As well. So we'll make sure to do that. We keep losing Hashi. She's having some problems today, unfortunately. Someone else jump in. What about what you've been doing differently and why and how it's working out?
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Sorry, I had muted myself. I had muted myself during Farah's discussion. I think for me, you guys all know, like I have an arts background, so being in front of the camera and public speaking, these are things that are not foreign to me. And these are things that I actually enjoy doing quite a bit. I think that the technicality of being in front of a camera is not something that's bothersome to me, but it's the adaptation of being like a regular person in front of the camera and a lawyer that I had to kind of learn. I had to kind of learn like what my style is as an attorney on camera, and that has translated into how I am and present myself off camera as well. I'm not sure if this makes sense, but the evolution that I was forced to do because of COVID has now cemented itself as something that I do in my everyday life in my practice. So I'll give one very, very simple example, very silly example. When I was an associate, when I worked for other firms, I absolutely always tied my hair. Even when I started my own practice, my professional headshot was me with a ponytail with my hair tied up. And now that I am on video every day and I'm connecting with clients in different ways, I almost never wear my hair up when I'm working now. It's not something that is a detractor like it was when I was an associate or what I thought in the beginning. It's actually something that is complementary to who I am as a person. I mean, who I am as an attorney. And I always say to my staff that I had a really rich life. Like I've traveled a lot, I've studied a lot, I've had a bunch of different jobs, and all of that has made my practice as an attorney much richer. This is why I think that we are very good at storytelling and at connecting with people who are creative and artistic like me. So one major change with the use of video has been being more comfortable with myself as an attorney, if that makes sense, but comfortable enough and confident enough in myself to just wear my hair down, own my hair down, and assert myself as an attorney with my hair down. So maybe in the past, people didn't think that an attorney looked like me, but I hope to be part of the example and the standard of attorneys that look like me and that look like all of us today on the panel.
yeah, and I think that's a great point, because if you think it's controversial, for example, to wear your hair out or down, and you don't do it, it's never going to become acceptable. It's never going to become the norm. And once you feel, okay, this is normal, I'm just thinking it's not, I'm going to be me, everyone's going to accept you that way. And that's really where I think it's that how you're going to be viewed really does start deep down inside you and how you view yourself.
Yeah, for me, it was mostly like I grew up going to private school, so I had to wear a uniform my whole life. And I always said, you know, I decided to be a lawyer. I know what the uniform is, and this is a part of the uniform. But now I can dictate what the uniform is.
Exactly. So what about, where do you think, though, that we should draw some lines? So, for example, do you feel that it's okay to use like those beauty apps with the filters where, you know, if your client ever does meet you in person, assuming COVID ends, that they're going to be like, give a double take when they see you? Do you think it's okay to do with the images where like the, you know, the touch ups and everything? I mean, what should you be doing in that respect with some of these more controversial, if you will, different ways to change your appearance online?
I use filters sometimes, and I don't think it changes my appearance that much. I don't use any of the kitty filters, like sparkly things and all that, but you know, some skin smoothing filters. I mean, I'm a woman of a certain age, so I kind of need some of that. But I did hear you talk about the long hair before right when I was trying to get back on. And that's so interesting because I always battle with that too. My hair is really long, and people have told me, you know, you don't look like a lawyer. And I'm like, what does that exactly look like? You know, so I feel comfortable with my hair down. I don't think I have to put it up to look more professional. And so that was an interesting thing you guys were talking about. But yeah, the filters, I'm team filter. I don't know if anyone else is on this call, but
I go back and forth on some of my videos. I have a filter, but like you, Hashi, they're just very minimal. filters, and then other times it's just my camera. So it just depends on what I'm feeling that day, which is okay, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I mean, I would say I'm more team no filter, but I think it's also like related to what I do in my profession. And my best friend also has a very serious corporate job, and I've done her headshot a few weeks back, and I just realized how most women actually thinking that there is a certain level of perfect that you have to be, especially when you're doing professional headshots or professional things like videos, for example. And she was very self-conscious about her under eyes and things like that. And I was kind of laughing at first. I was like, that's not going to change how people like book stuff with you if you have under eyes or if you don't. But I saw the way she reacted, and she was so self-conscious about that she said that it would change her confidence in talking to those people. And so I realized how deep really that was for her, for example. And talking to a lot of women through All Women Project every day about their body insecurities, I realized more and more that the little things that most of us wouldn't even notice on a picture of any of you, you guys would probably just obsess over it. And so I used to be like that a few years back as well. And just like practicing not caring about those things made me be team no filter now. But a few years back, I would probably definitely be team filters as well.
What was Ria's comment? Gray hair.
Gray hair, don't care.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Clementine, those are great points. Society is superficial, and I think part of what we're trying to do here today is talk about these things so that society maybe can become less superficial. Because we, as Clementine mentioned earlier, like we're attorneys, we have plenty to deal with on a daily basis. Yet these issues of image were just like overloading our chat, and it's important because you're always told you have to look a certain way and do a certain thing. And on that note, what I want to do is, if I can do this correctly with sharing my screen, share screen. I want to do an application. Here we go. Okay. Now I put this up as part of our promos. This is the Prime Minister of Finland. And this kind of, I kind of jumped the gun a little. This goes into our quote second topic of societal perception differences, men versus women. But this photo was in a fashion magazine a few months ago. She's not wearing a shirt under her blazer, and people freaked out about this. So what do you guys think about this? Should this be controversial? Why is it even controversial to begin with?
I mean, I think it shouldn't, clearly. In my opinion, it's, your body, your business, like I said earlier. And if she feels great and amazing and she loved the way she looks and she wanted that camera that day, then, it's all the power to her. And I think nobody should have anything to say about that. Now I see why people do, because women over certain power and status are, hold to different standards, I would say, that your random like singer or TV star or whatever, who is okay to be half naked or anything, but for some reason, like, people think it's not okay. But I think, she looked great, and it's not provocative, and it's not weird, and it's gorgeous. So I don't see why it should be an issue.
Yeah, I think she looks beautiful. I think a lot of times it's a reflection of our own insecurities. Mm-hmm. Thinking, I could never wear something like that, or maybe I wouldn't look like her. But I think she looks gorgeous. I wish I could wear something like that, but she looks beautiful.
I agree. I think you shared this picture with us before, this discussion. And it took me a couple minutes to even figure out what the controversy was. I was trying to figure that out first, because I see a strong, beautiful woman right in front of me. So I didn't see anything beyond that would be, remotely controversial. I will say that I think a lot of this is also, and I think that's probably the reason why I have this gut reaction, is that it's so gender biased, because we don't see pictures like this of, the male prime ministers, for example, Justin Trudeau, or even, President Obama, where he was off in the Bahamas and he wasn't wearing a shirt and he was just kind of, sunbathing on a boat or something, and nobody made a big deal of it. Nobody really cared. Everyone just thought, oh, this is great. Look at how great he looks. Nobody made any sort of comments that, oh, this is unprofessional or inappropriate. So I think because I know that that's kind of, there's a double standard there, I always veer towards the opposite and say the same for a woman doing the same thing.
Yeah, and what do you guys think? Like, I don't see like Angela Merkel, Prime Minister of Germany, doing this, or Hillary Clinton. But I remember when Hillary was running 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about her hair and her outfit. You don't hear that about men. Granted, they're just wearing boring suits, but that's because men, and that goes back to my point where women are still newer to the workplace, that our work clothes are different. And we get criticized so much more. And I mean, I don't think it's fair. And I think that it distracts a lot from what we're trying to accomplish. Like, this is just a beautiful picture of a beautiful woman who's in power. And, and instead of people actually like reading the article and learning like what she has to say, they're just looking at this picture and talking about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think the issue is that whether or not she's beautiful. I think that everybody can agree objectively she's a beautiful person and she's a beautiful woman, and it's a nice photograph. It's probably even considered to be stylized pretty well, with the jewelry and the loose hair, or like the wavy hair. I mean, I think probably, was this on Vogue or something?
I don't remember the name of the magazine. It was,
it was on a magazine, so it's very different than like a paparazzi shot that Clara was mentioning. Like, I think that the issue was positioning, almost qualifying her expertise as a prime minister with her beauty. It's like, it's impossible, and Farah was mentioning the gender bias. It's like almost impossible to divorce vanity and beauty and performative femininity from, a woman. And it's always like qualifying like a woman prime minister, a female prime minister. And it's like, what would have been, like, why did they make this decision instead of just putting her in a regular suit or whatever regular suits she wears on a day-to-day basis? Why was there the need to go the extra step and change that perception? They had to sexualize her, which is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that she looks bad, or I'm not even saying that she was forced to do this. I'm just saying that why this decision instead of put her in her suit that she wears every day because she's the prime minister. She's not a model.
And I haven't looked into her history, so I feel a little bit ignorant on that front. But I mean, I don't know how she dressed prior to being the prime minister. And I think Allison, one of our viewers, Allison Abdul Shafi, had a really interesting comment as well. Can we get that one up, the bottom one? Because I think Electra, your point is right, that we don't dress up. Or I guess what is defined as sexy is different a lot of times for men versus women, and so a man is often what's defined as sexy for a man is often fully clothed, and a tuxedo or something like that, versus a ball gown for a woman that has like a drop neckline or something, or an open back or something like that. So that also, I think, really plays into this difference between men and women in the way that society views them, because you could have a photo of Barack Obama and say, oh, he was really, sexy in that photo, without it being a revealing photo of his skin as well. And that's something that with women, I think certainly women that are not showing women revealing clothes that we think of as sexy, but it is a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have a comment or question comment, even in affirming the prime minister, the qualifier, she's beautiful and has a nice body. What if she wasn't beautiful or didn't have a nice body? Would it still be controversial? Electra, you kind of touched on that.
I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of a singer, Beth Ditto? She's the lead singer of a group called The Gossip. Beth Ditto is a lesbian, shaved eyebrows, very, very big, very large woman. And I don't think that they would have made the decision to put Beth Ditto in the same sort of stylization because of her not possibly being considered what society would think is attractive. So I think that what they were just doing is capitalizing off, her attractiveness, her slim body, and it almost seems as if like being a prime minister is like a plus to her being pretty, which is so insulting to her. It shouldn't be insulting because there's nothing wrong with being pretty and smart at the same time. In fact, all women are pretty and smart at the same time. I just question the reason why. Like, why is it that a photographer would go in this direction? Who was the photographer? Was it a male photographer or a female photographer? Who was the stylist? Was it a male stylist or a female stylist? Those experiences as a male and female will taint how you create your art. It will decorate how you create your art. So I'm just curious about those decisions, like why this suit instead of her regular suit?
That's a good point, because
she goes like this to work every day, which is totally fine.
Yeah, and that's a good point, that when you're at that level of your profession, where you're on top of the food chain, you're not necessarily making those decisions yourself. Mm-hmm. So you might have an entire gang of people making these decisions. Maybe she does. Maybe she has veto power and she's not afraid to use it. Maybe she just defers to someone else, which with that, if you guys found out she was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this, and then her chief of staff was like, oh no, it's going to get you all this press, it's going to be great. Do you still have the same feeling about it that she should go ahead and do it? Because she has gotten positive press too.
Amanda, can we just jump back to everybody's faces? Because we can't see some people right now.
Sorry.
That's okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Oh, I did it different. You like that or that? That or that? All right, we're bigger here. Okay. So I mean, does it change your perspective at all, knowing if you knew she wasn't making the decision herself, or it was even maybe not even against it, but maybe against it, maybe not, but it wasn't her making that decision, putting herself in that outfit?
I would hope she was comfortable wearing that. I would not want to wear something I wasn't comfortable in, with someone telling me, hey, Hashi, if you wear this, you're going to get so many TikTok views or whatever the case may be. So I'm just curious what her self-talk was prior to putting that on, because mine probably would have been, oh my God, if I wanted to do it, I'd still probably say, oh my God, what will people think? What will my mom think? I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, I'm caring about my mom. What would people in India think? All these things are going through my mind. So I'm just wondering, I would love to know the background behind that picture. I don't know if you ladies feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I want to bring our one of our surprises up. I'll go back to all of us in a second. But I think you'll like this one. If you guys know who that is.
Oh yeah.
Who's that? That's
Kamala Harris
with Montel Williams.
Oh my God.
Apparently they dated in the early 2000s. This Pop Trigger is like a fashion magazine, so they're praising her white silk gown, and now she's our vice president-elect. And I've seen some feedback about this too. It's blown up Twitter. You're getting comments on both sides of the coin, but at this point, she was a district attorney. So wondering should we be even talking about who she used to date? Does that matter?
I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's something that will come up regardless of the matter. So, I mean, I think it's awesome because it shows us that she is a woman first, regardless of the role that she has now, that she used to have. And that there is no acceptable outfit for any kind of profession. And if she wants to date whoever, and if she wants to dress as sexy as she wants, that should not affect how people see her capabilities and how she sees her worth as a professional woman. And so I think that's why I love seeing that picture, because I was like, whoa, at first, but now it's like, that's awesome, because you want to see who the woman really is behind a title. And so that's what I like to see when I talk to, any kind of women in the professional areas. I just want to see who they are as women first, and then their job is only their job.
And Clem, on that note, I agree that if she you should be able to wear what you want, that you feel comfortable in, and not worry about the backlash. But the backlash is out there. So how do we combat that backlash? Because there's nothing wrong with this picture. There's nothing wrong at all. but there's definitely going to be people, just like with the Prime Minister of Finland, that are going to, you're never going to stop everybody. But the reason that you're getting so much backlash is because it's going against a societal norm. So what do we do as females and professionals to push back on that?
I mean, acceptance is the only way. There's not much to be done for people that do not want to see you for who you are. I think just accepting it yourself and accepting that some people might never accept you for who you are, and then that's just the only way to go for me. It's not so much about changing who you are and how you look like to fit into this idea of what people are expecting from you. It's more just accepting it and moving on.
Anyone else have any insight there?
I think it's about normalizing. I mean, the more people start to see people who look different than what they think that people should look like, the more it will become normal. The more we have conversations like this, the more these ideas or these conversations will be obsolete. Like, I hope we don't need to have these conversations in like the next 20, 30, 40 years, because it should be a non-issue. It should be a non-issue. I agree with you, Amanda. It isn't a non-issue for lots of people and for lots of different regions. But for those, like, I'm in New York, sometimes I go to court and I see, male attorneys in like, sneakers, at a master calendar hearing. And hopefully that will soon become normal for women if women start to go to court with sneakers and sweats, and it will be a non-issue soon.
I had a judge yell at my opposing counsel, who was a woman, in family court for wearing sneakers. She just had foot surgery, apparently, and judge's like, I don't care. So I don't know if she would have even noticed it if she was a male. And then Hashi, going back to one of the things that you were talking about India and about how people in India are going to see you. So we definitely know that there's varying cultural opinions on what a professional woman should look like. So how do we approach that issue? Like, if people may be watching us from around the world, I hope so. And we're all immigration lawyers here, and Clementine is from abroad as well. So how do we deal with that, since we're in such a global world now that, this might be acceptable and the norm in the US, but you're also trying to attract clients outside the US, and they might not be as understanding.
Right.
And I think I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think the flip side of that too is, I think that, and this is what, when we talk about TikTok lawyer, I think there's also a huge segment of the population and a huge like cultural segment that's saying, you know what, this is completely normal, and this is what we not expect to see, but they're not shocked by it, they're not put off by it. And so I think there's both sides of the coin when you look at it from a cultural perspective. I think a lot of Latin American culture, I mean, you see people you see women in the news, on Univision and whatever, and that's like they wear those tight form-fitting dresses every day, and that's normal for them. So I think for a lot, looking at that, even in the U.S., sometimes, American white person born and raised here might look at that and be shocked, or might have been shocked, but that's normal in Latino culture in a lot of countries or from a lot of backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I remember moving to Miami from Paris 10 years ago, and it was like two different worlds. I could not believe how free like Latin women were with how they dress and how careless they were about if they were big or small. And me, like, coming from France, being a very full of insecurity, bigger woman, I was just like cultural shock, but in a great way. I finally started feeling good about myself when I moved here because of that. And so absolutely, like, the cultural change is huge. And I think, like, thinking about it when you address people, especially on social media, is important. But that's why I think it all comes to who's your audience and who you're trying to attract. Because at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. So I think having a niche and having a target audience is very important. And that's what's going to dictate what you should really care about.
And we have a question. Isn't there an expectation for professional appearance in court? Yes, there is, 100%. And that's why people get in trouble. But it seems that female attorneys will get critiqued more. than male attorneys. At least, I mean, in my experience, I know when we were talking before today, we were talking about how I think maybe every single one of us has said at one time or another, we've been told that we don't look like an attorney. And that kind of goes into this whole thing, like, well, what's an attorney supposed to look like? I get like my youthful glow, very flattered, but at the same time, like I'm dressed in a suit, like I'm standing up there all professional, and then and then the judge will say, "Where's your lawyer?" And you're just like, "What?" And that it doesn't happen to me as much anymore because now we're on video. But like, I don't see that happening to males. I don't know if you guys have.
I've been confused for the defendant more than once.
Right.
That's a terrible thing.
Right. Yeah. I've been in the attorney line in court, full suit, and asked for my bar card, for my ID, all types of things. And so whoever said the sneaker comment, that would never fly with me. You know, I would never be able to walk into a courtroom like that. I wanted to answer the India question. You know, it's so interesting. It's sort of like how I move in my personal life. So I was born in India, but came here when I was 2. So I don't fit in India, and I don't fit in here. And so I sort of combine my personal and professional pages with a little bit of both. And so I'm never going to please, 100% of the Indians or all, the Americans. So I kind of just do what I feel comfortable with, Speaking of comfortable, right before we started, I did pluck a few gray hairs, not because I was going to be on the camera, but because I didn't want them just sticking out the top of my head, right? So,
but aren't they going to grow back faster? Isn't that?
Well, I mean,
and one cultural issue that I wanted to bring up, because I honestly, it bothers me, but I also find it fascinating, is in Japan. Most employers require women to wear high heels. It is not against the law. Like, they've actually tried to sue the employers to get them to stop, but they have lost. And this was like as recently as last year. What do you guys make of that? How can we ever help women in countries where they don't have the freedom that we do? What can they do to try to change that, try to change the tide?
I think for those types of conversations, it's really important to have curiosity or understanding of intersectionalism, feminism, which is really, really important. I think a lot of us were talking about like different cultural norms in other countries, and I'll never forget how everyone knows I'm half Italian, half African, and I used to live in Italy, and I went to an interview in Rome. So I took the train from Naples, went to Rome. I was so excited. Told my husband, "Oh, I have an interview for this." Jobs in Europe are very, very difficult, especially for people who look like me, who have multiple identities. Polyglots is very hard for us. So I go to this interview and I'm like, "Oh my God, they have an office in Madrid. They have an office in New York. I've got this in the bag. Who else has 2 law degrees from the US and Europe? They're going to hire me." So I get into, and I wore a suit, of course, and my hair was tied back. So I get into the room, and the managing partner, the first thing that he exclaims in Italian is, "What a beautiful Cuban woman you are." And I'm not Cuban, but I get mistaken for Cuban all the time. And there's nothing wrong with being Cuban. But the point is, I am a non-white woman, and non-white women tend to be highly sexualized in certain countries, right? Specifically Italy. I can speak to Italy because I know mostly about Italy because of my culture and heritage. So I think that it's very, very important for women of all colors, all demographics, whatever you identify with, to really stand up in solidarity. And when you see things like this, to really stand up for other women, because a lot of the times, that young lawyer that I was shocked. There was nothing that I could say because I'd never really been in a situation like that. So when we're in my first job in Portland, I actually got a handbook. And I was told that I couldn't wear skirts above my knee, and I couldn't wear heels shorter than, like half an inch. And the managing partner took me aside and he was like, "You've got to wear your hair up. You're great. We love you. But being a lawyer is about getting clients to trust you and extrapolating the facts and the truth for them so that you can successfully defend them." So I mean, if there had been maybe a female managing partner or maybe a female managing partner, person of color, would I have had that conversation or other conversations in my career? I don't know. But it's really, really important for us to understand the importance of intersectional feminism and really stand up for, you know, women of color who are professionals, because it is just like Amanda pointed out. I mean, this history of women in the workforce is a short history, but that history for women of color is even shorter.
It's very true. And I have something maybe a little controversial to say. I'm Jewish, and I know that with someone just had to grab a charger. I know that in my religion and in other religions as well, women have to dress a certain way, and women are segregated in houses of worship, and even like touching one another. Hasidic women wear wigs because there's something about that their hair is supposed to be touched by someone else, and you know, that's as a young Jewish girl growing up in the suburbs of New York, my mom would take me to some stores where like in the Orthodox community, and I would come from like soccer practice wearing shorts above my knees, and I would just get death stares. And that was like, that's always stuck out in my mind. And I've been to Israel twice. I was mitzvah there. I went back on a birthright trip. I love Israel, but like it's 150 degrees out in the desert, and we're being forced to cover ourselves while the men are wearing shorts. And it just shows how much more progress we need to make. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like I actually talked to some rabbis about this because I was really bothered. And I was like, why is this okay? If you say we're all equal and blah, 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 the explanation I got was, and I'll just say it, that we put women on a pedestal. We treat women this way because they're on a pedestal. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not like you're putting them at the front of the synagogue when you separate them. You're putting them in the back. Like, I mean, there's this cognitive dissonance that you see where, like, I mean, I love Jewish people. I love my people. But like for me, it eats at me, because until we can get some of those extreme views to go a little more towards the middle slowly, we're going to be dealing with these issues to the extent that we are.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, and that's probably a whole other discussion, but religion, culture, society, all of those intermingled, and the hyper focus that all of them have on how women are supposed to look and behave and act is, I mean, from time immemorial, right? So we've had this issue from the very beginning, from the story of Adam and Eve that has now been, very most likely been proven wrong, that wasn't even the story. And yet there's a story of either she's on a pedestal or she's a temptress. There's no middle ground. And so I think we've had this problem for centuries, and we won't solve it in, one live. But I think the fact that we recognize it, and then we teach our own peers and our children, and whatever the better way that we think is better. I think that is so much more powerful, because I have had the same conversations that you've had, Amanda, both in my own culture, in my society, in religious houses of worship. Just in general, I've done a lot of public speaking about gender bias and double standards, and the role of women in general. I have a Muslim background, so almost instantaneously when I go to these interfaith discussions, or I go to another, before COVID, I used to visit churches and temples, and we would talk about different religions and interfaith. Every single one of them would start and begin with, well, women are oppressed in your religion, or they're oppressed in your culture. Okay, talk to us about that. But in the meantime, they would have their own issues. And I think there's a general gender oppression across the board that we need to recognize and do whatever we can to even out and fix. And we start that by having discussions like this, and not being very, very cognizant of conversations about, oh, she's wearing this and that's inappropriate, or she's doing this and that's, you know, she shouldn't do it that way, because we kind of feed off of what society is telling us to, you know, of how to behave.
Totally agree. And I just want to, I have one more screen to share.
Can we get it? I think Linnette was going to say
Oh,
something.
go ahead.
And just to continue on that theme of supporting each other, I've had the opposite thing happen to me, is that when I go into court, if it's a female judge or immigration officers, if it's a female, sometimes I'm very tall. So if I'm dressed and I'm intimidating to some women, and I get treated a certain way. And the reverse happens if I walk in with a male officer, I get treated a different way. And so as women, we need to learn also to not treat each other just based on how we look and what our perception is, and not get mad if somebody is prettier or has a nicer, what you think is better hair or better nails or anything. We should all support each other and raise our kids, be it boys or girls, to understand that as well as they grow and enter the workforce as well.
And I think that's a great point, that what we're really talking about here is there's a lot of differences, whether it's because of culture, whether it's because of experience, whether it's because of where you live or socioeconomic status. But difference or different doesn't mean bad. Different just means different. And it's actually a beautiful thing. I mean, look at these beautiful faces. We're all completely different people. We're from different parts of the country. We have different heritages, religions, etc. And Electra, this is for you, this last screen share. There we go. Oh, I scared the whole thing. Hold on. Let me redo that real quick.
Well, while you're doing that, I was going to say, I think this brings up a lot of the conversation that we were having very late last night. And I guess my feeling after everything that was said, and I think it ties in here, is that ultimately we're not responsible as women for what people's reactions are to seeing us. And so we have to try to remember that as well. And I guess I bring that up because when we're looking at things like what the Prime Minister of Finland was wearing, or when we're looking at how we interact with people that see us and have a certain perception, we have to remember that we're not responsible for that perception.
That's a great point, Elizabeth. So yeah, I saw this and I thought of you, Electra, because I know you have a great TikTok video about your hair, which I really like. My hair can't do what your hair is doing right now. I can make it frizzy, but that's about it.
I woke up like this.
And again, this is Pop Sugar. It's a fashion magazine, but the fact that we're even talking about our vice president-elect's hair, I think is significant in a way, in two ways. One being that, like, if she was a male, this wouldn't, I doubt, would come up. But also because she is a woman of color who's at the highest office any female in general has gotten to, and it is something for young women to be able to see. And I mean, you would know more about hair controversy here, so I'm wondering what your thoughts and feelings are on this.
She can wear her hair the way, I think that maybe it might be controversial for some people because there's the natural hair movement among, you know, people of color who have curly hair. Like people, I mean, I don't care how people wear their hair. I mean, you can wear your hair natural, straight. In my family, I mixed. My sister has straight hair like Hashi. My brother has curly hair like Hashi's son. I have an afro like my dad. I mean, I don't care about how people choose to style their hair. I think that within the natural hair movement, though, a lot of people advocate for wearing your hair naturally. But I advocate for wearing your hair the way you feel. Like my mom said, beauty is what beauty feels. If you feel pretty with curly hair, then wear your hair curly. If you feel pretty with straight hair, then wear your hair straight. I've always been crazy with my hair. I've shaved my head twice. I've had every color in the rainbow. I've tried to experiment as much as possible because for me, it's just hair. And I think that for somebody who's in a position of power, like our vice president-elect, it is just fair for her. And sometimes we in America, we tend to make things political when they're really just not. So those are my thoughts. I don't think it's a political issue at all. I think she can wear her hair the way she wants. I think that people sometimes make it political because she's a woman of color, and there is a movement towards natural hair right now, and they might want to see somebody in power wear their hair naturally.
And just to wrap it up, pretty much that goes back to how society views you starts with how you view yourself. You know, it's how you hold yourself. It comes down to that. I believe Clementine had to drop out because she had another live to go to. We're grateful for having her. I'm grateful for all of my panelists today. Thank you guys so much. I think I really enjoyed it. I think we're going to be back in a month or so. Maybe do another topic. Maybe do a part 2 on image. We got to talk and see how it is. Thank you all for watching. I hope this has been enlightening. And, you know, we are all here. All of our contact information is on the event page. We're available for hire. So we hope to.
And for anyone who's watching either live or watching the recording after, please comment on what you'd love to see us talk about in the future. We have plenty of ideas ourselves, but we're also always open to hearing your ideas too.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.